Excellencies, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, may I now commend the program and welcome you all to the joint webinar by the Asian Vision Institute and the Daniel K. Inouye Asia Pacific Center for Security Study, DKI APCSS, on Cambodia Aspiration for a Successful ASEAN Chairmanship 2022, the Economic Community. The objective of this webinar is to exchange the different stakeholder perspective on how to strengthen Cambodia preparation for the ASEAN Chairmanship 2022 and to identify the recommendations to strengthen Cambodian preparation for effort for the ASEAN Chairmanship 2022. May I now introduce the brief agenda of today's webinar. We will have the welcome and keynote remarks by our guest of honor and the host, and then we have the group photo. In this session, in the opening session, which is the welcome remark and the keynote remark by our guest of honor and the host, we will live on Facebook. We are now live streaming on the Facebook. And after this session, we will end our live streaming on Facebook and continue our session in the Zoom platform. And then we will have the group photo. We will have the background presentation, a 10-minute break, the panel discussion, and the closing remark. So the core value of today's discussion is to adhere to the transparency, mutual respect, and inclusion. And for the non-attribution policy, to encourage open discussion, the non-attribution policy states that you may not quote anyone by name without express or consent of that person. We will live stream the opening session on our Facebook page and record the plenary session only. The recording will be uploaded on YouTube in the next 2 weeks. So now allow me to double check the status of your mic and your camera. So please have your mic mute and your camera off when you are not speaking. And to ask the question during the panel discussion and the presentation, please kindly click on the chat button and type your question there. The question will be gathered by our moderator and will be answered live by the speaker during the Q&A session. Here I would like to mention about the participating organization in today's webinar. We have over 18 Cambodian governmental ministry and related institutions, many foreign embassies in Phnom Penh, including the Daniel K. Inouye Asia Pacific Center for Security Study, DKI APCSS, the Asian Vision Institute, AVI, and the observer from the U.S. mission to ASEAN. And now let me move to the main agenda. It's about the welcome remark. May I now kindly invite His Excellency Dr. Saksi Pana, the chairman of the Asian Vision Institute or AVI, to deliver his welcoming remark. Please, Excellency, the floor is yours. Excellency, could you please turn on the mic?
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, okay. So let me say my greetings to all the participants and say a big welcome to Rear Admiral Peter Gumatatao. Also to my good friend, Ambassador Patrick Murphy. It's been a long time I have not seen you. And to my old colleague and dear friend, Dr. Pigrati, we go way back to the days of the WTO, so it's quite refreshing to see you all again. Of course, you know, Dr. Van der Red, you are in Singapore with me, so we do see each other quite often and discuss about ASEAN issue. But anyway, let me just say greetings to everyone, and let's start the program. To me, this webinar is quite a timely thing because we are only less than 6 months away from Cambodia taking over the ASEAN Chairmanship. And I want to say that this will be the third time that Cambodia take over the chairmanship. 2002, that's when we barely joined the ASEAN. So we joined 99, and then so 2 years later we had the chairmanship, quite a big challenge. And then 2012, which is we have 1 decade of experience, but still, you know, it's quite a big challenge in terms of organizing and everything. And this time, you know, this will be the third time. And I want to say that this third time will be more challenging than the first 2, because the economic situation, the social economic situation of the region is not good because of the pandemic, and the economy is not good. So this sort of like setting the stage of why ASEAN chair will be so crucial, you know, in terms of redirecting energy effort into the recovery period. I want to say that way back when we had our first chair, we had a big challenge in the sense that, you know, how to bring ASEAN together, you know, how to survive the competition from you know, the region, you know, from China, the rising of China and everything. But this time it's more challenging because we are basically, you know, starting almost from scratch because of the pandemic. So many things that is happening now would require that we think outside the box, that we think creative, that we think more, you know, aggressive in the sense on how do we go about the recovery process? How do we make sure that the recovery will be inclusive, sustainable, you know, in the context of this pandemic, in the context of the global and regional supply chain? How do we reestablish that again? You know, we have the ASEP, which I hope by next year it will enter into force. So I think a few countries have ratified already. Cambodia did recently, and when it enters into force, the challenge will be how do we mobilize the private sector so that they can understand the rules, so that they can take advantage of the ASEP. So these are some of the difficulty that I foresee, you know, under our chairmanship. But again, these are not unsurmountable difficulty. It just requires a lot of preparation. It requires a lot of partnership. In this case, partnership with the US matter quite a bit, because let's face it, the US is a major market for Cambodia. And we have to make sure that, you know, our industry can continue tapping the benefit from the trade preference that the US market offered to Cambodia. And this is something that we have to be mindful of. Of course, another thing that matters quite a bit is the advent of the 4th Industrial Revolution. You know, the pandemic bring us to the realization that we have to move, you know, online, whether we are savvy or not, you know, whether we know IT or not, we have no choice. So a lot of challenge arising from this 4th Industrial Revolution in terms of how does ASEAN country, how does Cambodia, for that matter, you know, upskill our labor force so that they are more IT savvy, that sort of thing. How do we tap the opportunity arising from e-commerce, for example? These are another aspect of the ASEAN chair challenges. Narrowing the development gap is another thing, and Cambodia is definitely, you know, on the other end. That mean we need to really work hard to reduce the development gap in the context of this pandemic. Yeah. So I would say all in all, the challenge for Cambodia Chairmanship is there. It's not I would say to limit this opportunity, but we have to work very hard. We have to work very smart. We have to reach out to a partner, development partner, particularly, so that we can have a good program moving forward. ASEAN 2025 is looming. So what would be the other challenge that we need to prepare ahead of that, right? So I think I have pretty much set out how I see the challenge facing ASEAN Chairmanship. It's doable. It's we can do it, but we do need to do it in partnership with American friend, a European friend, Asian friend, so that at the end of the day we can deliver something of sustainable for not just Cambodia, but for the ASEAN community as a whole. Yeah. So on that note, I want to say thank you for the Rear Admiral Peter Gumatatao for and your institute for helping us organize that. And I wish the event a successful event. Thank you very much.
So thank you, His Excellency Dr. Saksipana, for the very insightful welcome remark. Now, may I kindly invite Rear Admiral Peter Gumatatao, the Director of the Daniel K. Inouye Asia Pacific Center for Security Study, DKI APCSS, to deliver his welcoming remark. Please, Rear Admiral.
Thank you, Ham, and Your Excellency, Dr. Saksipana. Thank you so much for those kind words and the opening remarks. They're spot on, sir. You took a lot of my notes of what I wanted to say, but to everyone all the distinguished participants for this third webinar in the series that looks to see how Cambodia can prepare properly and leaning forward for this next ASEAN chair role. I welcome all of you. And as they say in Hawaii, aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha, sir. Aloha. I want to recognize up front, of course, first of all, the AVI chairman, Dr. Saksipana, for your leadership, sir. Thank you. And for being part of this event, as well as the president, Dr. Chang Vanarith. And of course, I would be remiss not to recognize someone who has been a big part of APCSS in regards to working in Cambodia, and that's the U.S. Ambassador to Cambodia, the Honorable Ambassador Patrick Murphy. Sir, it's good to have you up on the net and your team. So wanted to recognize all three of you up front. And then there's several groups of folks that I wanted to thank and acknowledge up front. And interestingly, it's not individuals that I am thanking, it's a collective group. And I think that's a good theme that we are seeing here. It's not just one perspective, it's how we can all come together to share views and collectively better understand how we can optimize the role of Cambodia as the next ASEAN chair. So that first group obviously goes to our partner, the Asian Vision Institute, AVI, for your continuing partnership with DKI APCSS, despite the COVID challenges. The restricted challenges did not stop these two great institutions from working together to address a very vital topic of significance for Cambodia. The AVI staff, Mr. Chairman and Mr. President, they have done a remarkable job working with our team, coordinating the logistics for this webinar and publicizing it, reaching out to participants and putting it together for a great program and speakers. When I was talking to Dr. Al Ohlers yesterday in the final wrap of just the fine points about this webinar, we both remarked about the incredible professionalism of what the AVI team has done to bring such a diverse group of agencies into this webinar series to have discussions today. The second group I wanted to thank is the U.S. Embassy at Phnom Penh. Their support their assistance in enabling DKI APCSS to participate in this partnership with AVI. I cannot underscore our appreciation for them and our collaboration in this journey, working side by side with our embassy. So thank you to all of them, Ambassador Murphy. And then the final group goes to all of the participants. I know we have, so I'm looking at here, we have 76 people up on the net, but we have so many distinguished speakers, very experienced participants that will be up, that have signed up, and most importantly, have made the time and investment to help contribute to a very open, candid, non-attribution discussion that would help Cambodia strengthen their preparation for this ASEAN chairmanship. So in my opening remarks, I wanted to emphasize a couple of points. The first one, and I have to agree with the chairman, Dr. Saksipana, when he talked about the economy and the impact of it. The economic dimension has always figured prominently in ASEAN. But COVID-19 pandemic has amplified the importance of, by causing severe economic dislocation, elevating the crucial importance of economic recovery, not just for respective countries, but for the region writ large. This point was emphasized at our very first webinar series with AVI back in March, if you all recall. And one key suggestion from that engagement then was for the establishment of a post-COVID-19 joint statement, an endorsement of an economic recovery plan to support ASEAN economies, especially in areas terribly affected in like tourism. So perhaps today we can explore this point and idea further in our discussions. The second piece that I wanted to emphasize is that Cambodia is assuming the chairmanship role at a very crucial time, with an opportunity to lead collective ASEAN efforts among member states and in relations with the rest of the world. The sustainment of ASEAN centrality is of fundamental importance and is the commitment and promotion of multilateralism. So this was raised during our second webinar series with AVI in May, when we discussed the political security community. It is a point no less significant for the economic community and pursuit of shared prosperity. So as you can see, this webinar 3 is a building block of this incredible partnership and effort that we've had working with AVI in consonance with our US Embassy to be able to prepare Cambodia properly and effectively for this next ASEAN chair. So in closing, I think today is an opportunity to slow down a little bit, to listen to some diverse perspectives on what priorities may Cambodia wish to focus on, to be able to strengthen the incredible positive momentum in economic community building despite the corruption, the interruption by COVID-19. I really do want to wish all the participants really a productive discussions during this time that would hopefully will result in tangible recommendations on how strengthening Cambodia's efforts for the future. On behalf of the team, our DKI APCSS Ohana, our family, we are so honored to assist, and we look forward to continuing our engagement with AVI on future opportunities in Cambodia. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Rear Admiral Guma Tau Tau, for the very descriptive and inspirational remarks. So now may I turn the floor to the keynote address remark by His Excellency Patrick Murphy, the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the United States to the Kingdom of Cambodia. So Excellency, the floor is yours.
Jumipsua, Aikudam Lukjum Tiu, Luk Sare Teng Akania, Akunjarang, thank you very much. Ms. Him, for the warm welcome. Let me offer a couple of greetings here at the top to our AVI chairman, Dr. Sipana. You look terrific. It is very inspiring to see you. I look forward to being together very soon. Seeing you in your trademark bow tie really fills me with good spirit. Thank you for your partnership today. And as always, Dr. Sipana and I have worked on ASEAN issues together for the better part of a decade. Greetings to President Vanarit of AVI. Thank you also for your partnership. And to my good friend and colleague, the director of APCSS, Pete Gumatau. Pete, you also look terrific today, very Pacific Island-like. Aloha to you and your team, and back at you with a great partnership. You have answered the call in working with us to partner with Cambodia in preparation for the ASEAN 22 chair year. We also have today joining us experts from across Southeast Asia, including here in Cambodia, who can share with us their valuable experiences and perspectives. So welcome to all of you and all of our participants. We also, I must point out, have a great impressive turnout. Like Pete Gumatauta was saying, high numbers, but it includes a diverse array of Cambodian ministries. I think by our count, over a dozen, maybe even over 15 ministries, very diverse. I think this is really important because it reflects a commitment to ASEAN and to a successful Cambodia 2022 chair year. So great to see all of these folks on board. You know, throughout the course of my career, I constantly observe lots of analysts and other friends of Southeast Asia question and wonder about US engagement in the region. Is it deep engagement? Is it pulled back? Is it enough? Where is the United States is a frequent question. I've always found that a little bit amusing because from my vantage point, a 30-year plus career, the United States is extremely and closely engaged with Southeast Asia and specifically ASEAN. It was 44 years ago that the United States became a dialogue partner of ASEAN, and we were the first dialogue partner from outside ASEAN to partner with the association. I think that's pretty remarkable. And that was at a time when ASEAN was half of its current size. In subsequent years, the United States was very supportive of ASEAN's expansion, including the arrival of Cambodia, as Dr. Sipana said, in 1999. We also know that ASEAN is considering the candidacy of Timor-Leste. We are supportive of that. At the time that ASEAN chooses, we hope it will be soon, because then Southeast Asia would be very inclusive through the mechanism that ASEAN is. In 2008, and I remember this very well, we became the first dialogue partner to name an ambassador to ASEAN. And then just a couple of years later in 2011, we were the first dialogue partner to open a resident mission in Jakarta to ASEAN. Now I think all of the dialogue partners have ambassadors and have resident missions in Jakarta. So it's become kind of standard. And more recently, for the last 5 years, now 6 years, we have had a strategic partnership with ASEAN. And that's a very valued, critically important partnership for us in the United States, and we think also for ASEAN. Now, why? Why do we have such a close relationship with ASEAN? And the answer fundamentally, I think, is quite easy. Southeast Asia itself is a very important region. It's a dynamic place to live and work. I know that. I've spent more than half of my career here. But also, it's a region that's on the rise. This is a substantial population. Over 650 million people call Southeast Asia home. It's a region that is very young population-wise. Some 60% of the population is under the age of 35. It's even higher in a country like Cambodia, closer to 70%. Young means dynamic, young means creative and innovative. This is also the world's fastest growing digital market. What I understand from my team is that each day, 125,000 people in Southeast Asia become users of the internet. That's pretty remarkable. That's a lot of new folks every day. That makes this region very, very connected. The region is also incredibly diverse, and Americans enjoy and appreciate and see the value in diversity. This region has great ethnic diversity, religious diversity, a diversity of systems of government, and that creates a lot of collective strength. There's also quite a bit of cooperation that we have across areas that are important to our individual countries, to our partnership, and to the globe. How we partner on North Korea challenges, for example, on the climate, on maritime security, on human rights. All of these issues are quite important for our respective national interests. Now, today we're talking about the economy, and the United States sees a strategic and economic importance in ASEAN and in our relationship with ASEAN. The ASEAN countries as a collective are our fourth largest trading partner in the world. And it's already been said by our other two speakers, the United States is a massive market for Southeast Asia. In fact, for Cambodia, the United States is Cambodia's largest export market by far. And that market is growing every year. The United States is the top outside investor in ASEAN. And one of our newest tools, the Development Finance Corporation, has already invested over $1 billion to support projects here. So our economic engagement is expanding and growing at a very rapid pace. The United States, it must be said, is also a strong supporter of the ASEAN Economic Community since this was launched in 2015, same year that we established our strategic partnership. And why is this? The ASEAN integration agenda is very key to further advancing opportunities between us and prosperity for our populations and growth in our 11 economies. And what the economic community is trying to do is pretty terrific, and it's important for all of us to achieve common rules, standards on border and customs procedures, protection of intellectual property, fair labor practices, environmental protections, efforts on anti-corruption. Many of these areas are works in progress, but we're here to partner because they are important for all of us. Now, at the same time, and I think any of our ASEAN friends would also be honest about this, there are challenges to integration. ASEAN is comprised of different cultures, different histories, different languages, different levels of development, different political and social structures. This means achieving full economic integrations. It's not easy. It's also very key for close economic integration to have predictable, good governance across all of the members. And I think we can see that there are some challenges in the region. We need strong, consistent legal frameworks that protect the investments of all companies, indigenous companies and outside investors. And it sounds easy to achieve, but it's not. It really requires political commitment at the highest levels to a rules-based system. And we cannot separate the political security realm from the economic. And let me give you just a couple of examples as I conclude my remarks. All of us hope that nations can adhere to UNCLOS, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, the arbitration ruling, important ruling that it made here in the region in 2016. We hope ASEAN and China can achieve a code of conduct. Doing so will help prevent conflicts, but also has some implications on the economic side of the equation. It helps secure trade, especially in one of the world's busiest shipping corridors, and that's through the South China Sea. So critical for safety and security to have these measures in place, but it has economic benefits. Now, combating climate change, something we're all working very hard together on. This will help, we hope, prevent extreme weather events, ensure food security for our populations. But on the economic side, tackling climate change and achieving some success is good for tourism. A lot of tourists like to come to Southeast Asia to see cultural wonders, but also your natural resource wonders. So protecting the climate has economic benefits as well. We all would like to see an open internet. This allows American and other companies to do business in ASEAN, and it fosters a vibrant local digital startup ecosystem. The key here, though, is to have an open internet and to be mindful of a trend to be overly restrictive, which can hurt us all economically. Just to cite one sector that's important in a number of countries, but quite important here in Cambodia, and that is the garment industry. It's been terrific to see Southeast Asian countries succeed in expanding this sector. It's great for international fashion, and it provides jobs, but we must also make sure that in expanding this sector, we are addressing labor challenges. We have lessons to learn from many different countries, even the United States. Way back early in our industrial revolution, we must take efforts to prevent child labor and forced labor. That will be important not only for the rules-based order that we all subscribe to, but also to do the right thing for humankind and to reap the economic benefits when there are good labor standards. So let me conclude by saying we very much support Southeast Asia's economic aspirations, including those of ASEAN through economic integration and an economic community. We especially support economic aspirations that sync with ASEAN's very core principles. Those core principles include efforts to protect independence, equality, and sovereignty. So what's this all about next year? Cambodia's ASEAN 2022 chair year. Dr. Sipana is absolutely correct. Of course, this is the third time Cambodia has this opportunity, but chairing ASEAN has grown in its importance over the years, including over the last 10 years since Cambodia hosted. It's a great opportunity. Any chair as host can showcase the success of their country, show off their cultural wonders, great things like food and hospitality. Cambodia has a lot to be proud of, and Cambodia has made a lot of success, including economic success. So it's a great opportunity to convene the leaders of the world. It's going to be incredible next year to see leaders coming from up to 27 countries that comprise the ASEAN Regional Forum and the 18 countries that comprise the very strategic East Asia Summit and the other partnerships that ASEAN and the Mekong have. But also with this opportunity comes responsibility. Cambodia will need to create a platform for these principles that I've addressed, for the values that are important to ASEAN and the partnership between the United States and ASEAN, and a platform to address the challenges of the day. Dr. Sipana and Pete Gumatauto have referred to some of them. COVID will continue as a challenge, but there are many more. There are many more. We have the emerging challenge of Myanmar, the persistent challenges of North Korea and the South China Sea. But we have great opportunities to advance cooperation in many of these and other areas. We wish Cambodia a very productive and successful ASEAN 2022 year. I say this frequently, the reason being is that Cambodia's success is also our success. So we're going to be good, reliable, committed partners going forward. Thank you for the opportunity today. Congratulations to AVI and APCSS and the partnership to advance these workshops, particularly today's important topic on economic integration. Akun Jaram, thank you.
So thank you, Ambassador Murphy, for the very motivational remarks. Thank you. And Excellency, Thanks, Excellency Dr. Saksipana, Rear Admiral Goma Tao Tao, Ambassador Murphy, for the very inspirational remarks. You have made